In this video we are going to create the UI for our chat application, and in order to do so, let's go to src and create a new folder called components, and inside component we will create another folder and call it chatbot container. Let's copy this chatbot container and we'll create a JSX as well as a style file inside it. Let's do that. And inside our chatbot container.jsx file, we'll create a React functional component. And inside our chatbot container.jsx file, we will create a React functional component. Let's create that and import our CSS files over here by using import styles from chatbot container.module.css. Save this. Also, let's import this chatbot container in our index.js file. So let's go inside it and import our chatbot container over here. You have to import it from our components chatbot container. And once this is done, we will remove the h1 tag over here and use the chatbot container instead. Let's save this. We will now start our development server by running npm run dev. And over here we can see that the AI tools has been removed and instead chatbot container is being shown. So let's start by creating the UI for our chatbot container. And in order to create our UI, let's first remove this default text, and on our div we will create it as a container. We'll give it rounded top in order to make border radius from the top side. And inside this container we will create our header first. So let's create a div for it, and we will also give it a class name, and we will give it padding of 2 from all the sides. Also we will give it padding of 3 from left and right. So let's give it px3, and we'll also give it rounded top over here, and we'll use background dark from bootstrap so that the background of our header stays dark and we can use white text in order to show our text. Inside this we'll create a paragraph. We'll write chatbot over here. Since this is our chatbot, we can give it more meaningful name, like let's say Udemy chatbot. And we will also give it a class name, and we will give it text white since our background is dark. And we will also give it margin bottom 0 so that the additional padding or margin for the paragraph element is removed. And at the top we will give it width of 50 so that it only appears to the half part of the screen. We don't want to scale our chatbot to full width, so that would reduce it to half width. And let's save this and let's check our UI. So our UI looks fine, but it would be good if we could center it, and in order to do that, let's go back to our Visual Studio Code. Now here what we will do is we will remove this default text from here, and we will add a class, and we will first of all give it a class of row, and inside this we will give it a class of, let's say, column 6. So let's do that, column 6. We will give this paragraph a class name of margin bottom 0, as well as we will give it background. Since our background is dark, we will give it text of white. Let's format our code and save it once. Also let's give our header some padding. So we will give it padding of 2 as well as padding from left and right of 3. So let's do that using px3. After saving it, let's check the UI. So our initial UI looks good, and I think we can make it more better by increasing the padding from top and bottom as well. So let's do that. Over here let's remove px3 and we will add p3 directly so that the padding of 3 is applied to all the sides, and now it looks much better. So let's now add the content over here so that the chat messages can be shown. So just below where we have created our header, we'll create another div. This would hold our messages. So let's give it a class name, and we will be using a custom class. So let's do that, and we will call it message box container. Let's declare that inside our CSS file. And now here we will give it a height of, let's say, 300 pixels for now, and an overflow property on y-axis, and give it scroll. Let's save this. And inside this message box container we will also give it some padding. So let's add that padding. We will give it px3 as well as py for top and bottom, and and inside this our message boxes will be shown. So let's create a message box for, let's say, first of all sender and then the receiver. Let's start by creating first message box, that is a div. Give this a class name of, let's say, sender message to be precise, as well as we can give it some text alignment to the center. So for that we'll give it display flex as well as align item center. And let's fix the typo for align and save this. Now inside this, first of all, let's do simple thing, and that's to add the chat message. And for now we can give it some text of lorem ipsum and save it. So now when we have created the message box for the sender, we will do same for the receiver. And let's copy this sender message box once and copy over here, and we will change the class name from sender message to receiver message. And along with align item center, we will add one more class over here, that is justify content center, and save this. As well as on our paragraph element, we'll give it a class name and again give it a margin bottom 0. Same over here for our sender message. Let's copy this over and paste it over here, and let's see what appears on our UI. So on our UI, we can see that the sender message is on the left side, but our receiver message is at the center. So let's see why is that the case. So over here, I can see that I have made a typo and it's not center, it's and. So let's make that change and save it. So now we can see that the message is on the right side. Let's add some padding and margin to it. So we will add some padding and margin to our paragraph, and in order to do that, let's switch our class description from this to dynamic class name. So let's do that first immediately. And we will also copy it over here and paste it over here to our sender receive message. Both will have same UI. So let's save this and get back to our CSS file, and over here we will declare that using message text. We will give it background color, and this color seems fine, as well as we will give it some padding of 8 pixel and 18 pixel. Also we'll give it some border radius of 3 pixel, and now save it. So our UI looks something like this. Let's add some margin between both the messages. So to do that, in the class for our receiver message, we will add some margin using margin top 3, and let's save this to see what appears on the UI. And as you can see now, the message UI looks good. What happens if we add more messages? So let's copy our messages and see what appears over here. So let me copy the sender and receiver message and paste it over here once statically. We can remove this later on. I will also copy the margin top so that we can see the margins everywhere. Let's save this. So as you can see, if we have lot more messages, a scroll bar will appear over here like this. So let's revert our changes by going back to our code and remove the style files as well as the message boxes. So in order to send our messages, we will need to create an input box for it as well as a send button. So let's create a div for it, and let's give some space at the bottom, and let's start by creating the input first. So we'll have an input, and below that we will be having a button. So let's add button as well, and on our input as well as on our button we'll give some classes. So let's add some classes. Similarly on the input we'll be having some classes, and on the parent as well we will have some classes. So let's give it over here, and this would be an input group class from Bootstrap. We will give it margin bottom of 3 as well as padding from top and bottom of 1, and on our input we will give it a class of form control, as well as we will give it rounded 0 so that the borders are square. And similarly for our button we will give it a class of background white, because we will be adding an image over here. That image would be from CDN, so you can use that link directly. So let me add that image over here. You will find this code for the image in my course, as well as I will add it as a reference so that you can copy it easily. It's a CDN link for the image and you can use it directly. I have also given it margin and 1 so that there is a margin from the right side. Let's save this once and see what comes on our UI, and we can adjust the UI accordingly. So the UI looks a bit clean, but still we need this background to be more clear and transparent, as well as we need to remove this border from here. So let's do that. First of all, let's add a placeholder over here on our input message box, and we will type a message and save this. As well as for our button, we will give it a class of border 0 and save this. So now our UI looks much better and it's good to start. I think that's good enough for us to start up. So with that being set up, we are done for this video, and now in next video we are going to send messages from here to our chatbot, and the AI will send us the messages and we'll show it over here. So good luck guys, see you in the next video.